Okay. Okay, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. Okay, so I'm making this video more of as a recap. Maybe nobody will see this, maybe some people will, but just thought like if I can, one, document it for me, and two, document it for other people as well, then maybe somebody could come across my story. So this is going to be the story of my miscarriage and like what happened, how I felt when I found out I was pregnant, how I was feeling and all that stuff. So basically, I found out I was pregnant. I'm just gonna verify on my phone. I found out I was pregnant on June 20th. I've been married for 4.5 years. But been with my husband for like 13 years. So we were high school sweethearts. So this was like one of the first times that we were thinking of starting a family. We traveled a lot, and hopefully we can post some videos or something later, because I just, from now after this happened, like I just want to document everything, and more of my journey as well. So basically this was our first time. I really wasn't expecting to be pregnant. I didn't mind if I was, but I wasn't expecting it. So basically how I found out on June 20th. I don't know, for 2 weeks prior to that, I felt really uncomfortable. My breasts like hurt super bad. At work, I am a nurse, so I work in an ICU, and it's like a high intensity, like fast paced. And then with the whole COVID going on, it was, you know, something like I just felt super tired, but I was just feeling like thinking like it's everything going on at work, like it's really stressful. So then that was on I found it on the 20th. So maybe like 2 days prior, I kind of started to get an idea. Could it be? Could it not be? I mean, obviously I've been with my husband for a while, so we've had a few pregnancy scares, and I say scares because we didn't want to start a family then. But now we were, so I was like, oh, if it is, cool. So basically I woke up in the middle of the night and I took a pregnancy test, and it was like 2 days before Father's Day, and it was positive. I didn't record myself because I didn't expect it. So I just like left it like that, and I thought, should I tell my husband now or should I tell him in 2 days, which is Father's Day? So I did. I held it for myself, which was like the hardest ever, and then I told him. So I told him on Father's Day, which was the 21st, and then so that's when we found out. It was a big fat positive, everything, and I was feeling the symptoms. I was nauseous. So at that point, I should have been about 4 weeks. I was nauseous, all of that. I right away set up an appointment. And my first appointment was on July 13th. So I found out I was pregnant on the 20th. On the 13th, I would go in. So that would kind of put me at the 8-week mark. And when I went in, keep in mind, it's a whole COVID thing. So this is my first appointment ever. And then, you know, my husband can't even go with me. So it was my dog, my husband in the car. You guys will meet my dog if this video ever gets out. And then, I got down, right? So I go, and my periods are really irregular. So TMI, like my periods could be anywhere. I've been tracking them for a while. And my periods can be anywhere between like 29 days being the most regular, and up to 37 or 38 days. So I didn't really know when I ovulated. I hadn't really looked into that much. So anyways, I go, they ask you for your last menstrual period. I put it down. Mine was May 15th, I believe. And so that would have already put me like almost 8 weeks, right? May 15th to July 13th. So we go in, she go to the sonogram, and she automatically, like, you know, ultrasound tech, like puts the abdominal ultrasound, and she was like, And I had my husband on FaceTime, because that's the only way that he could see, right? They were only letting one person in, which was just the patient. So she puts ultrasound, and she's like, like, I don't really, she just had like a confused face. So then she's like, you know, maybe you're just a little too early, like maybe your dates are off. And I was like, yeah, maybe my dates are off, because I could have ovulated late, which would put me back maybe a week and a half or so. So I was like, okay. So she's like, I'm gonna go ahead and do a transvaginal ultrasound. So she does a transvaginal ultrasound, and she's like searching around, super uncomfortable. She's searching around, and she's like, okay, so I see a gestational sac, which is that part like where your body starts building. It's like the sac. She's like, and I see a yolk sac. So apparently, like the little yolk sac, it's like a little dot in the middle. It's supposed to like feed your baby. She's like, but I don't see a baby, and I don't see a heartbeat. And I was like, okay. So at that point, I already kind of knew that there was something wrong. And I'm a nurse, so I kind of knew that. But even though I'm a nurse, like it was still an experience that I was going through. So I was just like, okay, well, and I got kind of a little emotional, but I was like, okay, I gotta pull it together. Like it's just me, you know? So I told my husband, like, okay, I'll call you back. So whatever. She's like, okay, the doctor is not gonna talk to you. I was like, all right. Doctor goes in, she takes a look at the ultrasound, and she's like, well, it could be ovulated early. This looks like a 5 to 6 weeks ultrasound. And you should be like 8 weeks by now. And I was 8 weeks and some days. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you come back in a week. We're going to do another ultrasound and then we'll see what's going on then. By then we should for sure have a baby. I was like, okay. She's like, but I mean, it looks promising. You know, this looks like an ultrasound of a like 6 week ultrasound. I was like, okay. So I left unsure, like started crying, just because I knew that there was something wrong. Like it told me inside, like something is wrong. And so, but either way, my husband was like, you know, trying to be positive, like, well, let's see what's going to happen, so on and so forth. Looking back, I remember mentioning one day I got out of work. I work nights, so I got out that morning and I told my husband, you know, like my pregnancy symptoms kind of feel like less. He's like, really? And I was like, but then again, here I was thinking in my head, this was like 3 days before I went to the ultrasound. Like I'm 8 weeks, maybe the little bit of nausea I had and the tired and tenderness, maybe it's just like subsiding. Maybe I'm like a lucky one. I don't know. My sister had a horrible like morning sickness or all day sickness. So I was like, maybe I'm lucky, you know? So I was like, okay. And then I kind of like would touch my breasts and I'm like, they still really hurt. Like my breasts hurt so much where don't have big boobs, by the way. So like whenever I would lay, they would hurt so bad. Like they've never hurt like that ever. So that was just like a little background one. Like looking back, that little light went off and I felt it. So nonetheless, that was on Monday. I went for the ultrasound. She told me all of that. They printed out a sonogram. Maybe I'll insert it. And so then I was like, okay. So that whole week was going to be super long. I'm like, okay, I just have to work. They drew labs, an HCG level and a progesterone level. So they called me 2 days later with the progesterone level and it was a 5. And for me, like they uploaded them onto the app where I can look at my levels and like the reference range was showing that it should be like where I'm at, it should be above like 10 to 12. You know, I'm at 5. I'm like, okay, this doesn't fit in the reference range. I got a little freaked out. But I work nights, so I was asleep when they called me to tell me about those results. I only saw them because I pulled them up on my phone when I woke up before going into my shift. So I saw them. I told my husband, it doesn't seem good. Like, I don't think that this is right. You know, progesterone is a hormone that like makes your baby like stick, for lack of better words. So I was like, okay. So I got ready for work. I went to work. Finally, you know, I got a chance at work to check my voicemails. I checked my voicemail and the nurse from the clinic is like, hey, you know, we went over your labs. Everything looks great. And I was like, great. Like, it just didn't make sense. I said, okay. So I said, I'll call them in the morning. I did. I called them. She said, you know what? The doctor considers like 5 to be like the lower point, but you're at 5. So, you know what? Thinking about it, I was at 6. She's like, it's 5. So then, you know, you're just like 1 point above. And I'm like, but isn't that concerning? And she's like, well, no, like the doctor considers that to be normal. Well, she went on or whatever. I was like, okay. My ECG level, I believe, was like at 3,000, which fell in the range where I was supposed to be. So, okay, that's fine. That was on a Wednesday. That was at work. And I started to feel a little bit of cramping. But when I first found out I was pregnant, I felt some type of cramping, but it was more like just like little pains. But this time I felt like a little bit more intense cramping, but still nothing to stop you in your tracks. It was just kind of like, okay, like that felt uncomfortable. So then, but it happened like once or twice throughout my shift. Didn't think anything of it. That was Wednesday night. Thursday, like I said, I work nights. I fell asleep. I woke up. I go to the restroom and I wipe. You know, I just woke up, so I went to the restroom. I wipe and I see that there is like blood. It's bright red blood, and it's just like when I wipe. And so I got scared, and immediately I was like, with everything that was going on, I know they say spotting is normal sometimes during pregnancy, but for me, with what was going on, I was already concerned. I was like, I called into work And I actually called the clinic, and they had a doctor on call, and she right away spoke to me, and she said, look, it could be normal. There could be absolutely nothing wrong. It could be like what they called a threatened abortion, meaning that your body like is acting like that, but the baby's fine. And I was like, okay. And I was gonna have a checkup on Monday. So this is Thursday, I'm gonna have a checkup on Monday. So I said, okay. She's like, just continue, like watch it. And if by chance you start bleeding a lot, like filling up a pad, then you can go to a freestanding or an ER. And I told her it was okay. I was gonna try my best to stay away because we're in a pandemic and I didn't feel comfortable. So, and plus it was just when I wiped. So I was like, okay. I called into work. Later that night, I started to feel a little bit more. It was more frequent, but not enough to fill up a pad. Just TMI, I don't use pads. So I had panty liners. Like I always use tampons on my days. So I had a panty liner and it would only fill like just very little. So I was not concerned. I was concerned, but I was like, well, she said if I filled up a pad, and everything I was reading online was that, oh, you feel like this gush of blood and you're gonna feel a lot of blood. So I was like, well, I'm not feeling that yet, so maybe I shouldn't get, like sad about it yet. But I was worried. I started cramping, I would say midnight on Friday. Started cramping. It was enough to keep me awake. So I do have like period cramps, and those period cramps, I will have to take like an ibuprofen or something for them. But at this point I was like, I'm pregnant. I don't want to take anything, not even Tylenol. So I was kind of trying to hold them out. And I remember waking up at 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Like they were hurting so bad that I had to go to the restroom. And again, wiping and being blood, but nothing ever on the panty liner. If anything, just like the tiniest little round dot. So it hurt so bad that I felt like I needed to take a shower. So I took a shower, and it was like with hot water, which I know they say you're not supposed to do that. I didn't know that at that time, but anyways, that's the only thing that would make me feel better. So that was, and then I said, you know what? I'm gonna have to take Tylenol. Like this hurts way too much. And like I said, it wasn't intense, but they were like continuous period cramps, like continuously. So I took a Tylenol. That was around 3:30. I woke up at 7 and I was like, wow, like I feel so refreshed. Like, let me go check. I go and check and I wipe, and it's like very little, really nothing. So I was like, okay, like that's weird. But luckily that doctor that I spoke to, she told me, you know what, let me get you in tomorrow morning. The girls from the office will call you. So they called me, sure enough, first thing, like 8 o'clock, they called me and they told me, hey, can you come in at 10? I was like, perfect. So, around like 9 o'clock, I remember taking another Tylenol, like around 8:30. And so I know it was like a little bit early, but I was like, it hurts. So I took a Tylenol, and then I just remembered like the most intense cramps I have ever felt. Like I couldn't even sit. I was just constantly moving. It was the worst pain ever. And I was getting ready to go to the doctor's office. So I was like, this is a bad time, but this is a perfect time. So it was hurting so bad. So bad that when I even got my doctor's office, was about 30 minutes away from my house. So it was so bad that I called the girls and I said, hey, can you just call on me when there is a space available, like an actual room available? Because I don't think I can sit in the waiting room. They said, does it hurt that bad? I said, it hurts super bad. And so my husband didn't even know what to do. It was just a really bad situation. I've never felt pain like that. So then finally, good enough, they got me in right away, and the doctor says, you know what, let me do a pelvic exam. The most horrifying thing, I've had pap smears before, but like pap smears are already uncomfortable, and then like adding a pelvic exam on top when your body is like in excruciating pain. I say excruciating because it was really bad. Like I couldn't sit. I threw up before she even got there from like, I had my mask on, so I guess I was like hyperventilating. Because of how much pain I was in. So then she does a pelvic exam, and that's when she tells me, okay, so it looks like your cervix is open. And she said, that means that you're miscarrying. And so at that point, I was in so much pain that I was just processing it. And I'm like, okay, so like, what's next? Like, what do I do? Like, I was just scared. And nobody I've known has ever really gone through a miscarriage. like on a personal level, like they've told me their story. So she said, let's do a transvaginal ultrasound just to make sure everything's okay. So after the cervical exam, which they go in there, like they open you up, you know, she swabbed kind of like a pap smear thing. She said, let's do a transvaginal ultrasound. So there I go to the transvaginal ultrasound, just a few rooms down. And she does it, and she looks in there and she's like, you know what? There's no baby. Same thing I saw. But mind you, she's like probing around there. She's probing and I'm in intense pain. So finally gets done. She told me, I'm going to prescribe you some pain medication. You can either pass this naturally or we can do a DNC. And I said, I don't want to do a DNC. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to do a DNC. And that's the DNC is like when they go in there, kind of just like scrape you out and take everything out. So she says, or I can give you Cytotec, which is a medication to help like induce the miscarriage. And I said, no, I just want to do it naturally. And honestly, I just wanted to get out of there. And I just felt like if I take this, like something's probably going to happen to me. And I don't even know what side effects this has. Like, I was just like, no, like I just want to go. And then she said, or you know what we can do? We can do like a vacuum aspiration, which is basically done in office, and they basically go in and with like light sedative, I guess, maybe just like a Valium or something, and then they just like basically pull it out of you. So I was like, okay, if on Monday if I can't pass it by Monday, then we'll talk about it. And she said, yeah, perfect. So I literally left, basically running out of the office because again, I'm by myself. And I just called my husband to tell him like, hey, I am having a miscarriage. And I just hung up. So I felt really bad because like there he is, I'm alone, he's alone, in the car waiting with our dog. Like, so we get there and again, I'm in excruciating pain the whole drive. So 30-minute driving to, probably 30 minutes in the doctor's office and 30 minutes driving back. That's an hour and a half. Super intense pain. Again, not bleeding that much though. And that was what was different about my miscarriage. So what she diagnosed me with is a blighted ovum. And basically that's like where your whole body thinks that you have a baby. Like it starts preparing everything, the gestational sac. So she said, but no baby ever actually appeared. But I was feeling everything. Like you're talking about 8 weeks thinking like I'm pregnant and feeling everything and just thinking like there's something growing inside of me. Come to find out there wasn't. But in my mind, I already had that emotional attachment. So that was what was really, really hard for us. And it was just like, why us, you know? But nonetheless, I came home. My husband like filled up, went and got the prescriptions. He comes back and I'm still in a lot of pain, but I'm like literally in so much pain that I'm like laying in my tub, like letting the water pour over me, like hot water. At this point, I'm like, I'm having a miscarriage, like just let it come. So I put hot water. I took a shower with like super hot water. So I put all the hot water on me, and that actually made me feel better. So I got out. He gives me a Percocet, which is what she gave me, and he gives me an ibuprofen 800. So I take that, and we get a heating pad, and I knock out. And I knock out for a few hours. I could still feel the cramps, but they're like dull, so I could still feel it. I wake up, I wipe. It's very little. That's very little on Friday, very little blood on Saturday, very little blood on Sunday. So everything I'm reading is saying gushes, lots of blood. Some people had cramping. I know every miscarriage is different, but I just couldn't find one that was like mine. Like, I didn't bleed that much. I never filled up a pad. The most blood I ever had was on Friday evening when I one time stood up and I could feel, at this point I had already bought pads because I was expecting this gush of blood. I just felt like a little drop. And if you're a girl and you wear pads, like, you know, like you just feel like, whoosh, and like it just comes out. So I said, oh, this is it. So I go running to the restroom and, you know, no, it's literally like this much blood. Like it's like a little circle. So that was it. I go in on Monday for a follow-up and see what happens. And I prayed. We're Christians, and I prayed so much. I just prayed for like clarity because it's such a hard situation. Like, I felt sad. I mean, I was crying constantly. Like, I literally cried like every 2 hours. And I prayed like just for me to understand that he has a bigger plan. God has a bigger plan for us, and if this wasn't meant to be, then he knows. And they say that like most of these pregnancies, like miscarriages, is because maybe there's like a chromosomal defect, and your body just kind of knows, like, you know what, I shouldn't start continuing to produce this. So I basically, I just prayed for that. My husband and I prayed together. We prayed a lot, and we prayed, and he was kind of upset, and I wasn't upset. I was just sad. And I basically just prayed like, God, just let me allow and fully like understand what is going on. And mind you, we're in a pandemic. My family is like away. They came over briefly. They brought stuff. I had amazing coworkers who sent me stuff. And by the way, my parents had no idea. We were planning to tell them that Monday, the first ultrasound, we had everything. We had pre-ordered gifts for everybody, like special personalized gifts for my sisters or my nephew, for my parents, for my husband's mom, and his nieces and nephews, his sister. We were super excited, but then we held off. And I'm glad in two cents, like I held off because I said, I want to make sure everything's okay. Like for some reason I felt that I want to make sure everything's okay. Like I could have done it on Father's Day. I told them. I know some people tell their family right away, like literally, because I thought about that, but for some reason I held back. Same thing on that Monday. I was like, I could still tell them. I mean, she told me it was normal. I just couldn't. So we were kind of like, they found out the day I was miscarrying was the day they found out, and they were all there and supportive. But I go in on that Monday, and she's like, okay, let's do a transvaginal ultrasound. She's like, are you still bleeding? And I told her, very little, like it's spotty. That's what it is. But mind you, whenever I would bleed or I would wipe, I would see tissue. It almost looked like if you got a little weenie and then you got a little weenie and then like you chopped it up into tiny pieces, like tiny pieces. That's what it looked like, but like maybe 3 or 4 pieces only. Like it wasn't like a lot of pieces. It was just like little bits of tissue. And so that Monday she does like the ultrasound, and she's like, and I just pray to God. I was like, God, like let my body do what it naturally is supposed to do, and just like expel, like miscarry naturally. I don't want to go through D&C. I don't want to go to the vacuum aspiration. I feel like that's just traumatic. Like again, I'm gonna be alone. Like I was scared. I was scared of being alone, especially during a time like this. So she goes in there with the ultrasound tech, and she looks around and she doesn't see anything. It's completely gone. And she says there's a little bit of fluid here, but that's it. And so I was so relieved. I was so relieved. My doctor went over the ultrasound. She's like, that's it, like you passed it. And I was like, how? Like every story I hear is like blood gushing, pain, and I had pain. I had pain for sure. I just don't know if maybe her doing the pelvic exam and kind of doing like a little sweep, like kind of helped like bring it out. And to be honest, I didn't see if she had a lot of blood on whatever probe. Like I was in a fog. I had just thrown up before I went on the tape, on the stirrups. So that was my story. And then it was gone. That Monday was gone. I had a follow-up HCG level that day, last week, and now we are August 5th. So I found that I was pregnant on the 20th. First appointment was on the July 13th, so June 20th and then July 13th. And then I miscarried on the 17th, and now we're August 5th. So we're talking about almost 3 weeks. So I just had my last HCG level drawn and it's 0. I feel back to my normal self. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. And then just the afterwards, I had an amazing boss. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I am an ICU nurse. So we're our hospital right now. We are the hotspot. I'm in South Texas. It's a hotspot. So she gave me 2 weeks off, and I desperately needed those 2 weeks off. I felt tired. I felt emotional. I prayed so much, and I'm still praying. And honestly, like, it was such a weird feeling. I've never struggled with mental health issues, thankfully. But those 2 weeks, or maybe like a week and a half, I felt something. I felt sad when I felt sad when I woke up. And I felt sad throughout the day. I would like literally be just sitting here on the couch the whole day. Not even like crying. I just felt sad. And like it took a lot of me to even get up and go wash dishes. My house was always clean and I had dishes there. My husband was super sweet. He would wash dishes and stuff, but like I just felt so like I had no energy, like no energy. And then that's when I realized, like, am I going through like a mini depression? Because I was having to think about what I wanted to do the next day. Like, what did I have a goal? So I said, you know what? I need to set a goal for myself. I need to get out of this couch, this bed. This is already like maybe 6 days after. And I would have moments like where I would go outside. I love watering my grass. I love going outside with my dogs. So there was those moments where I would go out there and I would feel great. But then I would come back in, or even out there, I would get sad again. But then I started like setting goals for myself. So setting goals like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna clean the entire kitchen, and I mean like clean, like counters, fridge, like pots, pans, put everything away, wash everything, sweep through, and mop. And so I said I'm gonna do that, and then just started making things for myself, like what I'm gonna do, so on and so forth. And now we're almost 3 weeks out. I feel so much better. I feel like I'm back to myself. I started working out again. And yeah, we're gonna try again. I have an upcoming appointment next Monday, just to look at my levels. The doctor told me we could look at my levels and then see if like maybe my progesterone level's low. My periods are irregular or long per se, and my actual cycle length is like 37 days, 36 days. So I have a follow-up appointment on Monday. I'm gonna make a video for that, and I'm just gonna document everything from here on out. I started doing ovulation tracking and some other things to just see where I'm at. But yeah, so we want to try again. We're hoping, we're praying that whenever God thinks it's our time, then we are going to try again. And you know, I'm 28 years old. I'm going to be 29, so I think this is a perfect time. And although this sad thing happened, whenever I found out, like the first thing I did was want to go to YouTube. I wanted to go to YouTube and I wanted to see what happened, like what happened to people, what did they feel, what should I expect, and everybody's different. But it really helped comforted me. Like I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia and I wouldn't sleep, and so like literally I would spend like 3 or 4 hours just like looking at other people's miscarriage stories. And some of them related to me as far as like the Blighted Ovum. And some of them didn't. Some of them were, you know, like they actually saw their baby. They actually had a heartbeat. But even though I didn't see a baby and I didn't see a heartbeat, keep in mind for 8 weeks, that's all I thought about. So in my mind, there was something, and that will forever be in my heart. And so we'll see. I'm just making this video to document it and see where we go from this. I want to make more videos just to create the journey. So when I do have a baby, I can just like start like documenting videos and stuff. So that's my miscarriage story. Diagnosis of Blighted Ovum, and you know, we're hoping to try again. We're faithful. We are praying to God that God blesses us with the baby. We're ready. And you know, this is just a journey to document and maybe hopefully help somebody out if you're going through this or you're not sure. Like, don't, you know, it's scary, but it's also a learning process. And I also learned to love myself through it and learn that, you know what, I was so happy when the ultrasound tech like looked and she was like, it's gone. I was sad, but I was happy because I'm like, thank you, God. Like, you let my body do what it was able to do. And that was what I feared the most. Like, if I had to have a DNC, then so be it. Like, you know, there's plenty of people who have DNCs. I wouldn't be the first, and I obviously wouldn't be the last. But I was just happy. Like, I felt relieved. I just prayed and prayed, you know, God, just let me naturally pass this, naturally and safely. I didn't want to get sick or anything. So yeah, so that's the story, and I'm gonna be posting more videos. Like I said, it's probably gonna be just more for myself, but I'm gonna post it because what the heck. And I'm gonna post what's been going on and my appointments and what to expect from that. Bye.